Iron. The second most common heavy metal of the earth has served humans since primeval times for the production of tools and machines. And it is a vital trace element for the human organism. Over 100 body functions are directly or indirectly dependent on iron. The largest part of the iron is bound to hemoglobin. As well as providing red-coloring blood material, iron helps all organs to supply muscles and somatic cells with oxygen. Iron gives energy to the body and is heavily involved in the formation of hormones and enzymes. A third part of the entire iron is stored in the liver and the spleen. The body does not form iron, therefore it must be supplied by food. The supply of iron from our food is between 2 to 5 milligrams daily. Red meat, liver, leguminous plants and wholemeal bread are particularly rich in iron. However, only a small part is taken up by the body. Humans must take in 10 to 20 milligrams of iron per day so that its iron supplies can guarantee all important bodily functions. From lack of iron, young people often suffer growth problems. Older people and women during menstruation, pregnancy, after birth and in old age can also be affected.
In der offiziellen Version kann man sagen, dass Eisenmangel erst dann manifest ist, wenn eine Blutarmut vorliegt.
One can officially say that lack of iron only manifests if blood deficiency is present and proven. However, 50 years ago, it had already been stated that a lack of iron can also be present if no anemia is found. We call this type an iron lack syndrome. It is a condition which is characterized by various symptoms: exhaustion, concentration or sleep disturbances, to mention a few. A condition which was not realized during the last 50 years, although, for example, in 1957 the University of Innsbruck already referred to it, and in 1980 a large pharmaceutical concern mentioned the same topic. That is, a rediscovery of the syndrome of lack of iron, a preliminary stage of iron deficiency anemia. It is a grave and global problem because half of all mankind suffers from a lack of iron. In particular, Europe and in the USA, where the syndrome of lack of iron without anemia is present, while in Africa or in countries with low nutrition, iron deficiency anemia is clear and present in the late stages. The diagnostics of lack of iron depend particularly on symptoms and, if possible, on blood measurements. In Europe, we can easily measure the amounts of iron in the body. If one exhibits a lack of iron and depleted iron supplies simultaneously, one can assume a lack of iron is present. But only after treatment one can confirm that the patient suffered with a lack of iron, if symptoms disappeared with the treatment. In African countries, where primarily iron deficiency anemia is present, one can clearly state with a hemoglobin measurement whether anemia is present or not. The official doctrine states that one has to treat patients with iron tablets. Experience tells us that humans who do take iron tablets mostly do not profit from the cure, as the symptoms do not disappear. On the other hand, it is possible to correct anemia. The blood formation increases so that the hemoglobin content normalizes itself, but the quality of life is very often not improved by the iron tablets. The reason is that the supply of iron tablets is only effective to approximately 5 to 10% of patients. The body can absorb only 5 to 10% of the swallowed iron. For this reason, we developed a new concept of supplying iron intravenously. The necessary iron levels of the body can be restored within a few weeks. This is the reason that we can say for sure that an intravenous treatment is clearly more effective than a tablet treatment. It appears that about 20 to 30% of humans who use iron tablets suffer side effects, in particular stomach and intestinal problems. There are various iron preparations which one can administer intravenously. Iron molecules must be bound to a carrier such as dextranes, sugar molecules or salts. as iron cannot be administered in its pure form. In Switzerland, we use only iron sugar preparations. Iron saccharose is one example. The trade name is Venofer, or iron carboxymaltose, Ferinject. With patients suffering from a lack of iron, we prefer iron saccharose in single dosages from 0.2 grams to a pre-calculated total amount. While with the new iron deficiency anemia formulation, the patient is forced to use Ferinject because up to 1 gram can be administered with a single infusion. This is the reason the treatment has become much simpler. And for patients in Africa, we would recommend the Ferinject treatment in every situation, as the lack of iron is so pronounced there that with 0.2 gram steps, too many infusions would be required. Iron can be injected either directly or administered as a short infusion. The physician must break the ampule to open it, empty the contents into an infusion, and then administer the entire amount of approximately 1 deciliter into the vein within half an hour. After the infusion, where the blood pressure is again measured, the patient may go home and subsequently must return for a second and perhaps third infusion, depending on the total appropriate quantity. The treatment with Ferinject is very simple. One can administer 0.2 grams in 1 minute. If a whole gram is needed, it can be provided by a short 15-minute infusion. If, for example, 2 grams are needed in total, one can first provide 1 gram and then another a week later. With regard to pricing strategy, the usual north-south gap plays a large role. The ampules are affordable in Europe and the USA, and the cost will usually be refunded by health insurance programs. In Africa, however, the ampules are not usually affordable, though one could order the ampules from South Africa. The problem is a large one, and there are unanswered questions.